evening, everyone. Welcome back. Another episode from Nerds of the North. Time for another epic fantasy review, Wheel of Time. We're moving on to Wheel of Time, Book 7, A Crown of Swords. Now, the prologue for this book is quite interesting. After the high that Lords of Chaos left you on with Dumai's Wells, the prologue is a retelling of Dumai's Wells, but from the Shido point of view. As Savannah's trying to gain control, forcing everyone back in. She's wielding a spear as a club. Maidens are running past her and she's stabbing them down in their tracks. Turn and fight! As the Shido are broken and run. It was insane to have it start up like that. But then another part that I remember is Savannah clearly being played by Grendel and Samael. With, she uses what he's calling a call box. So it allows Samael and Grendel to locate them and gateway to their position, in disguise, of course. And he gives to Savannah what he's calling a fool's box. Which, when the Shido go to use it, hoping because it's supposed to bring them to greener pastures, is what what they've told. A richer land for them to plunder. Oh, it might have, to some of them, but what it effectively did is it split the Shido into very small groups, just scattered them across the world. Across the continent, sorry. That's quite funny. You break the Shido up into small pieces, and they're just going to get broken apart by any army that falls across them now. We have Egwene using more of her powers and ability as the Amyrlin. She comes out with, in a ride-along, wandering around with Siuan and I believe it's Nassau who's with her. They're out there riding, and Egwene's just like, oh, let's go over here. And Nassau's like, okay, but Mother, we need to go over that way. We're going over this way. Lord Gareth Bryn has everything in control over there. They keep going off and off and off on a bit of a sidetrack, and Nassau's getting more and more panicked each and every time. And finally it's just, alright, Nassau, take us on. Nassau, by this point, knows she's been caught. Leads Egwene and Siuan to Morella's camp, where Morella has land. Something was done that has not been done for ages. The passing of a warder bond without the warder's permission. Now, Moiraine did this to save Lan's life. She did not want Lan killing himself in a futile attempt to try and get back something because Moiraine knew she was going to die. So she passed his bond off to Morella. Now, you can see for other reasons of doing this. You find out later exactly why Moiraine did this. But that's numerous books ahead, so we're not going to worry about that. Now, Egwene, having caught Morella and everybody in this trap, uses this to force Morella and Nassau to swear fealty to her. As well as dealing with the threat that to one of the novices and one of the other girls in camp had placed, where they threatened pretty much to blackmail Egwene about things that the novice and this other girl had overheard from Nynaeve and Elaine. Well, now that she caught them in this, red-handed with Morella and Nassau, it's taken care of, it's done, she's got them on a tight leash. She doesn't have to worry about that anymore. But Egwene also uses this moment to take Lan, and because you need something you need to give a warder something to do, especially when they're crazed like this. Something to do, something that'll consume all of his attention. But it also has to be something that he's willing to do. The more willing he is to do it, the more he wants to do it, the better off it is going to be for him, and the stronger he'll be able to do it so he won't go crazy and kill himself. So Egwene sends Lan off to Ebu Dar to protect Nynaeve as her warder in standing, until she finds one of her own. Brilliant idea, by the way, because if there's one person that Lan Mandragoran is going to do absolutely everything for, it's going to be the woman that he loves. This book also we see Mat becoming Queen Tylan's toy, which I know is a off spot for a lot of people in the series. Pretty much Tylan's forcing herself on Mat, and he can't say one thing about it, because he has servants trapping him, pulling him in, she's tying him up, and he can't really do much because she's a queen, and she'll kill him otherwise, so it's weird, but it's kind of funny that it's happening to Mat, the womanizer. We also, at this point, Mat learns the truth about his Ashendare. It's right back there in the corner. He learns the truth about his Ashendare, that it's actually called an Ashendare. He's been calling it a spear, a strange spear up to this point. But now he knows what it is after a conversation with Birgitte. Because Mat's figured out who Birgitte is from a memory of sounding the horn and having this woman come out of the fog. So that's quite interesting. Now, Elayne and Nynaeve are still in Ebu Dar. They're still looking for the Bowl of the Winds. Now, after they harass Mat one too many times, the innkeeper, Mistress Anan, I believe she's called, decide, that's it. You two do not look nearly old enough to be Aes Sedai that you're claiming to be. I'm taking you to someone who's going to help. You better do as you say, because if I ever see you in my inn again, there's going to be trouble. Because you're not messing with Lord Mat. Lord Mat's a good man. I'm not having you bring him down. She takes them off to meet the Kin. Now, the Kin is a very strange group. It's a circle of women who can channel, a group of women who can channel, who are not Aes Sedai. They've had tower training. Some of them are still Wilders, but they've all had tower training. That's the one requirement. They will not teach a Wilder. They will not take in a Wilder. They will send Wilders to the tower. But they take in runaways, women who have been put out of the tower, etc., etc. Now, they don't believe Elayne and Nynaeve are Aes Sedai, and they send them packing, telling them, you have a day to get out of the city. By that point, if you haven't gotten out of the city, we're passing your name, your descriptions off to any Aes Sedai that we see. And you're going to get hunted, because we don't believe you. You're claiming to be Aes Sedai, which is illegal. And, yeah, we're done with you. We're not going to protect you at all. Well, the two of them split up. Elayne goes to deal with Morella, the Aes Sedai in the Tarwyn Palace. Tarwyn? Anyway, in Queen Tylan's palace. And gets put on the spot royally because apparently the tower knew about the Kin all the time. They know for a fact that no runaway gets off the island without the assistance of the Kin. So they've long knew what the Kin were, what the Kin do, and Elayne's now jeopardized this by coming into contact with them. This is where Elayne throws down the, you believe, like you seem to follow the will of Egwene Al'Vir, the Amyrlin seat. You recognize Egwene Al'Vir as the rightful Amyrlin seat, yet you deny that I am Aes Sedai. What Egwene Al'Vir says is law, as she is the Amyrlin seat. She has proclaimed that I am Aes Sedai. To deny me that I am Aes Sedai means you deny her as the Amyrlin seat. She has sent me on a mission. I will be doing my mission. I demand that you help. And she puts the Aes Sedai in their place. It is hilarious to listen to. I love it. All throughout Abu Dar, we're coming into other little bits and pieces. Jacob Carradine is here, and we know Jacob Carradine is a dark friend. He's actually the man who calls himself Bors. And he's being dealt with by Myrddraal. He's using other members to try and hunt Mat Cauthon. Mat finds the woman who tried to kill him and Rand in a barn back in Eye of the World. And he chases her halfway across town. This is where Mat comes across his signet ring. Because he stops in front of a vendor just to quickly pass, to look inconspicuous, tries on the sample piece. He sees that the girl's running away, and he can't pull the sample piece off his finger to get away, so he just pays for it and leaves. Well, it's got 9 moons, with a fox chasing 2 ravens into flight. What did the Fox people say to him? You will marry the daughter of the 9 moons? You now have a ring with 9 moons on it? Something's falling together here, Mat. We have, when Elaine and them finally get the Aes Sedai together, they go back to the tower. They go back to the kinswomen's group, because the kinwomen, they're certain know where the Bowl of the Winds is kept. And they finally confront them. They realize that there's over 2,000 of them. And with Egwene's new offer of any woman who can channel Egwene once linked to the tower, they just brought 2,000 extra channelers to the White Tower. That's more than there are Aes Sedai. That's insane. And some of these Aes Sedai, or some of these kin, are extremely old. One of them, she asks, I know this is kind of rude of me to say, but how old are you? And it's Rhianna Corley that she asks, and Rhianna's like, well, my next naming day will be my 422nd. And Morella blacks out and passes out. 420 years old? Aes Sedai don't live that long. We find out why later, but Aes Sedai don't live that long. The kinwomen are living longer. We find out the difference why in a couple of books from now, but there you go. We get another pretty awesome point. We get Nynaeve getting spotted through the crowd by Moghedien. Moghedien, by this point, is lapdog to Moradin. Moradin has her Korsuvra around his neck and controls her. While she's on a mission for Moradin, she spots Nynaeve, and that's it, I'm having my vengeance, I don't care. Races up on top of a building, sees Nynaeve's boat going out across the river, and boom! Bale fires the boat. She jumps at a flock of birds that happen to take flight just as she casts, so she tweaks her bar a little bit. Rather than smoking straight through the cabin and hitting Nynaeve, she slices the boat clean in half, striking the oarsman, so the boat, rather than being here, suddenly goes way back here, because it burned the oarsman out of time, and the boat sinks immediately down to the bottom. Well, Nynaeve's trapped inside, and she can't get out. Very little air left in there. She's found the door. She's trying to dig around the door, but the door is wedged into the mud. She's starting to see in a tunnel. Everything's going black. She's laboring for breath. She can't get out. She can't get the anger in her to channel anymore. And finally, she just gives in. She finally surrenders completely and utterly. At that moment, her block dissolves, and the power floods into her. She breaks out of the boat. She rises to the surface, or starts to rise to the surface. Someone grabs her and pulls her to the surface and gets her into a boat. Lan has shown up at that point and rescues her. Then she drags them onto a sea folk ship so they can get married. That happens pretty quick. Rand has his meeting with the sea folk, who immediately agree to become the Cormor, or agree that he is the Cormor. He leaves two of the Aes Sedai to deal with him, and then he heads off because he's got great luck right now. Everything's working my way. Taviran's finally doing what I want it to do. Let's go deal with the Cairhienin rebels. So he heads off with Min alone to go and deal with the Cairhienin rebels. Ends up dueling with Toram Riotin as a bubble of evil strikes, this fog that can spawn creatures of tentacles and everything, rips the tent away, grabs one of the red Aes Sedai, kills her, twisting her neck completely around, before Cadsuane, who is there, can kill it. Cadsuane pretty much says to Rand, look, or in a way that doesn't reveal that Rand is who he is, because Rand's in disguise right now as one of the younger Damodred brothers, or cousins, is supposed to be. So he's trying to hide who he is. Cadsuane's like, okay, well, we're going to get you out of here. You in the center, we're going to walk out of here. We will take care of everything. Just use your sword. That works. Until a woman is attacked. Rand cannot stand a woman being attacked. So Rand lashes out with the power. Toram sees this, freaks. It's you! And he leaves. However, Toram's assistant, who was hiding in the mist, now that Rand has revealed himself, knows, comes running forward with a duck roll, gets underneath the guard of everybody, and slash! Just nicks through Rand's coat, right down his side. Hit the dagger with the ruby hilt, the Shadar Logoth blade, scoring straight across the scar that Baalzamon gave to Rand. Rand screams, falls to the ground. Everyone's freaking out. The yellow sister that's with them does a healing just enough to keep Rand alive. They fight their way out of the fog. They work their way through the forest. They finally come across a road. They buy the first cart that comes to them, emptying out the farmer's goods, loading up Rand into the back, telling them race off to Cairhien as fast as you can, and Cadsuane's telling them to go to such and such a location, and Min just flat out refuses. No. You take him to the Sun Palace. If he wakes, surrounded by strange Aes Sedai again, I don't know what he's going to do, but it's not going to be pretty. He has to wake up in his own room. So Cadsuane agrees. They take him off to the Sun Palace. While they're en route, Cadsuane demands from Min, why? What happened the last time? And Min explains the treatment that Elaida put him at, what Rand did, the entire travel in the box, the stilling of the Aes Sedai. Two of the other Aes Sedai with Cadsuane freak out at the mention that he's stilled sisters, throw themselves over the side of the wagon and start throwing up, because it's just such a brutal image to an Aes Sedai. Cadsuane's just sitting there looking down at Rand, brushing the hair out of Rand's forehead. It's like, I'm sorry, boy. You have nothing to fear from me. I won't hurt you more than is absolutely necessary. They made my job harder, but we'll deal with it. So you start to know at this point that Cadsuane is on his side, although just how much, you're not really sure. But Cadsuane now sees why Rand has a hatred for Aes Sedai and knows how hard her job's going to be. We then move on after Rand is healed. He sneaks out with some of his Ashaman, leading Davram Bashir's forces to attack Ilion, and baiting Samael. So Rand and Samael gateway themselves away from the city because Samael refuses to have Ilion destroyed, goads Rand to chase after him, and they end up in Shadar Logoth. They're dueling in Shadar Logoth. While they're having their battle, someone else is there. Someone else is watching. Moradin is there in the distance, secretly watching. And in a moment where Rand is about to get struck down by Samael, Moradin intervenes to change what happens. And it spooks Samael just enough. Samael steps back into Mashadar. The evil of Shadar Logoth claims Samael's life as Rand gateways away back to Ilion to be awarded the Laurel Crown. He remakes it. He renames it. It is now the Crown of Swords. Ilion now belongs to the Dragon Reborn. Another Forsaken is dead. We have Cadsuane on board. We have the Bowl of the Winds has been found. They are ready to use the Bowl of the Winds. However, we also discover that now there is a problem. There is a Golem in Ebu Dar. This Golem has discovered that there is one problem. Mat and his Foxhead Medallion. The Foxhead Medallion that burns the Golem as though it were acid. The Golem gets away, but causes so much damage in the process. They manage to still get their hands on the bowl, and we end with something happening that we're not 100% sure what's happening, but more is explained in the next book. So until then, this is it for Wheel of Time review for Book 7, Crown of Swords. There's a lot that I can remember, but it all seems to blur into a mix. And this is going to happen for the next 2 books, because right now we're hitting a moment in the Wheel of Time where it's really confusing as to what happens in what book, because 3 books take place at the exact same time. In the next 3 books, things are going to happen that coincide, because at one point in each book, you're going to see characters just suddenly stop and go, just be. And some will look to the west, some will look to the east, but they're all looking to the same point. A massive surge of the one power. Both Ashaman and Aes Sedai do this. So it's a surge of Sayadar and Sayadin. And we will explain just what that is in our next review. Till then, take care everyone. Matt from Nerds of the North.